Good day, everyone, and welcome to this 112 Areopa webinar already. And in this case, Jose will present about 7 or so AI killer prompts to change your daily life as a functional consultant. And I think I'm really glad that finally we also have got a topic for functional consultants. In this case, I'm really glad and happy to see from what kind of prompts Jose will present to us to make our lives easier. I'm Bert Verbeek. I'm your host for today. Some housekeeping rules. Your mic is muted, and you can ask your questions in the GoToWebinar question window that you see in the pane. And I, as a moderator, will pick up the questions at the end and then ask them to Jose. Also, this webinar will be recorded and published on our YouTube channel. There are a lot of topics already covered, so really nice also to look into that one. And please subscribe to that channel if you haven't done that yet. Do you want to know more? We have also a webinar newsletter. You can subscribe to it. So in a couple of times, we will send out a message from upcoming webinars. And speaking about upcoming webinars, because this is will new seasons, we have already 4 slots presented there. The first one is the 13th of October. Then Waldo pick up the topic from my customer has a performance problem. What do I do? Then the 10th of November, Katerina and Artem will talk to you about extending the backend of BizCentral with AI agents and Azure AI Foundry. Luke and Milan will tell you more on the 24th of November on 43 dev tips in 45 minutes. So probably they are going to speak very fast. Quite a challenge, I think. And then on the 8th of December, Tina and Luke will also speak on you don't have to make test plans anymore. And I think also they have done it on PC Tech Days. It's really a really good received webinar. And also, you can see there are a couple of slots open. We are constantly looking into speakers and topics. So in that case, if you have one, please suggest to us a topic, or if you want to be a speaker, that's also really good. And please contact us. And then final thanks to our sponsor for NAV for all these things will happen. And the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Bert. Can you confirm that you can hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. Can you change to me? Okay.
Yeah.
And can you confirm, Bert, that you can see my screen in presenter mode?
Yeah, I can see your screen.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So first of all, thank you, Bert and Luke. So Bert, because he's moderating today, Luke, because saw this presentation. I think that it was in May, and he just said, oh, Jose, I think that I need to try to convince you to present back again on these webinars. And I am the type of person that I really like to share the things that I find out, because I am also learning all the time from the others. So, and this was the start of the presentation that I will do. So if any of you that are involved on the dynamic stack somehow, or more specifically on Business Central, and you already saw this presentation in one of the in-person events organized by the community, it is really the same, sorry to say, but this is a repetition of the one that I did in person. So for today, this is the agenda that I have to share with you. So a quick intro about myself. I have just a quick question for all of you that is optional, but you can respond. Is only 3 questions. I will explain after a little bit of the disclaimers and the background of this session, and after we will go into more detail. And I will try to summarize with my key takeaways, and I will challenge you to find your key takeaways too, and we will have some space at the end for some Q&A. So feel free to include on the chat, because I am sure that between myself and Bert, we can review later that at the end. So a little bit about myself. The way that I really like to present myself is like a coin, the two sides. I believe that in life, a lot of things has two sides. And when I describe myself who I am, I like to put into this perspective of the personal and professional side. So my side A, that is the personal one, is I am married, I have twins, a boy and a girl. I really like everything that is related with food, drinks, and sports. And every time that I can, I am volunteering different things, not only in corporate world, but also on my personal life. In terms of my professional career, since I left uni more than 25 years ago, I work all the time in IT consulting, always on the partner side, always working with customers. I start my journey in Porto. I moved 2 years in Lisbon, and 7 years ago, I moved to London. And during this experience of more than 25 years, I work in different types of companies, some startup style, and now I work in one of the big four. So I work in KPMG in London. My journey started with business applications all the time, but it was with Oracle. I had an experience with SAP, but it was something that more than 20 years ago, it was not as it is visible today. But I moved to Microsoft, and it was the right decision in my perspective for my career. And I believe that besides the product, I am the result of more than 50 plus end-to-end implementations. Some of them are very simple ones, startups, some of them companies that want to be listed in the stock market, some of them multinationals, multi-countries, very complex with manufacturing, distribution. And I believe that I am the result of this experience, that I am working with different customers. So this is me, and I will have here a QR code that, if you are okay, I will give you a couple of seconds just to try to read who is attending today. And at the very end, we will go to the results, and I will try to summarize with this information. So it's optional, it's anonymous, but if you are happy to respond, please do. It's very simple questions, 3 questions, if I remember well. Okay, so I give a couple of seconds, hopefully you respond. We will go to that later on. So now going to the session itself, I need to start and to explain to all of you that are attending these sessions a specific disclaimer. So in my journey as an IT person, I cannot say that I am an AI expert. So if we are talking here about my journey, I think that all of you will learn something, because this is a reflection about what I did and what are my key takeaways. But I am not the right person to respond to difficult questions if I prefer, for example, ChatGPT or another tool about AI. I don't have this background of details about AI. This is my journey. I will share with you, and hopefully this will help for all of you to find your way. And I need to start to be very open about this. This is the personal experience. And why I think that it's important to share, because when AI just hit all of us recently, I was on the position that I didn't know where to start. And I got some inspiration about a presentation from Microsoft. And after that, I think that to share my experience is also good for all of you. The second thing is, when I decide I need to start to use Gen AI to help on everyday tasks, I did a personal exercise. And on the left, I just start to list the things that personally I really like. So I am a person that I like to change. I don't like to do the same thing every day. I really look for the things with all the time to bring value and to add value. I like to be more productive. I love to beat the competition. And usually I define and I follow a plan. This is me. And I start this journey of AI looking for the things that I really like. And on the right, you can see the things that I don't like, and if I can, I try to avoid. So every time that I need to repeat a task, I don't like to do that. I don't like when I am on a situation and I don't have inspiration to start something that is important, a new topic, a new presentation, a new blog post. I like that. I don't like that moment where I feel a kind of lost to start that. And of course, that I think that all of us, I hate to fail. So I am sharing this because it was the starting point. When I look for the AI, I select where AI can help on the things that I don't like. Because the things that I love to do, I don't want, at least for now, that AI replace me. And I start with this right side of the things. So the challenge that I did for myself and into work is the things that I don't like so much, I start to use AI. And it was the start of my journey. And the next step was, as I work a lot of times with functional consultants, I start to list the main tasks that I identify that are part of a role like a functional consultant. So gathering requirements to do the fit gap analysis, to design solutions, configure the system, help, and I must admit that partner by partner, the data migration can be more technical, less technical, but I still believe that the functional consultants can have a role on the data migration, to test integrations, to test generically, to do some trainings, and to do some documentation. I am sure that all of you, if you are functional consultants, you can disagree with some of these, potentially on the companies or with the companies that you are working can be different, but these are just some examples of the tasks. And what I did as a next step was to try to identify on each of these tasks, how can AI help? And today on this presentation, I have a couple of examples with real prompts that I will share with you. I don't have examples to all of them. We just have this slot of time and it's impossible to show all of them. But I have few, and at the end, the last one is really to give some ideas about additional ones that you can do on your own. So let's go with the first one. The first example is really in terms of gathering requirements. And before I show you the proposed prompt, I want to share with you that we need to meet some pre-requirements. So if we are talking about an in-person requirements gathering, what I am proposing is to record the session to have a transcript of the session. It's really important to have that. Otherwise, and I know that because of this tool that we have now on Teams and other solutions, a lot of times this is being done, but this is one pre-requirement. After, we need to copy-paste this transcript to a text file. And the third point that I can see a lot of people not doing that, and in terms of the results, it can make a difference, is to review the transcript manually before we upload to AI. And why I have this experience that is important to do this small step is, you know that a lot of times we are on a meeting, we start with the CFO saying we are multi-currency, and later on someone said, oh, but it's not part of the scope, or the multi-currency is not critical for now. So on the same transcript, sometimes we start to have a requirement about multi-currency and later on it's not. And if we can review that manually as a human person, it helps AI to gather better the requirements. So I propose that we review. There is also these pause moments that we are not talking about requirements. I would propose that we remove that part of the transcript before we upload to AI. And finally, we need to be clear what we expect. So in this case, we are talking about requirements. What is the expectation? Is a list in Excel, is a DevOps work items, is a Word, is a PowerPoint. I know that each organization can work on a different way. Please define before you ask AI. If you say, list the requirements, AI does not know what type of output do you want. So this is the most important thing. The prompt itself that I will show on the next slide is the easy part. So I have here two prompts, the version 1 and the version 2 that is on the next slide. And as you can see, besides the ask itself, that is the last statement that you can see, please generate the list of overall requirements for this customer in this area to implement this solution. You can see that there is like an introduction on the prompt saying, I am a functional consultant. I am part of an engagement with this customer. You don't need to list the name of the customer, but you need to explain that you are implementing a new ERP. You need to explain that this is the first meeting to capture the requirements. And you need, if possible, to include some background about the company. And if you don't do this, AI will create generic requirements for you. So if you can, for example, explain this company works on this industry, operates on this country, has this outsourcing, and the last part that is saying, this person is the CFO, this person is the engagement manager, this is the solution architect, naming the names of the person and the titles, AI can use looking for the conversation if it is identified with the name of the person who said that, and can give a priority about the list of the requirements. So I think that the magic happens if we create this introduction on the prompt, instead of saying, this is the transcript, generate the list of requirements for me. So this is my lessons learned and my takeaway in terms of the requirements gathering. The version 2 of this prompt is, instead of saying, please generate the list of requirements, saying, please generate the list of requirements in this format, explaining the columns, to be ready to be imported in DevOps. And in this case, AI can list the requirements, as you can see with these screenshots, with everything that we organize, including the columns that are always fixed. This means that if you know how to import to DevOps in terms of requirements on the DevOps items types, you can have fully ready. You don't need to transform itself. So going back where I start is, be clear if you want to have an Excel or a DevOps style or a PowerPoint or a bullet points or whatever is really important. In my experience, and this is my personal view, AI can do a better job comparing with the best functional consultants that I work until today. So if you have the best functional consultants leading the session with the right questions and trying to take notes about the things, AI can be better, in my experience, than most of them. So this is an additional tool that we can start to use. Moving to the prompt 2. So this is the one about requirements gathering. The second one is about gap analysis. So gap analysis is when we have this situation that we have a specific requirement and we are not sure if using the product is a gap or if it is a out-of-the-box solution. And again, we need to be clear about what is the requirement. We need to organize ourselves what the customer wants to know. And second is, what do we expect as an output? Is a yes, no, or are we asking AI to give some options? And for that, I have here 3 examples. So a requirement that a customer asked me a few years back, saying, is it possible to dispose partially of fixed assets in Dynamic without using the split? This is a simple question that the customer wants to know, do I need to customize or not? Is out of the box or not in Business Central? The second one is it possible to create a sales invoice in Dynamics where some values are due in different dates? For example, we have a total of 1,500,000 is today and 500 in 60 days. And the third example, is it possible to raise a sales invoice in Dynamics to be deposited in a different bank than the default one from the company? So 3 examples that I use with real examples because it came from customers, and I use the AI. Here, to be honest, there is no magic on the prompt itself. If we identify the requirement, there is a standard functionality to do this in Dynamics. The results are pretty good. So AI looks all the time for the database and puts a date. So potentially is not the latest update, but the result usually is okay. So on this, in this example, the answer of AI is completely fine. On the second one, on the different dates, it also explained what is possible to do in Business Central to have this situation of different dates in different values in different days. So in my opinion, the question, instead of reading blogs, search Google and asking colleagues, does still exist, still is valid, but we have an additional one that is to prompt using AI. So the second example, in my view, is also, the result is also okay. But the third one is not approved in my perspective. So they propose on this AI that I use that in this case, there is the need of customization. And there is a recent update in Dynamics Business Central that is possible to do without customize. So why I bring these 3 examples is we have an additional tool to analyze that is AI. Instead of looking for blogs, looking for the release documentation from Microsoft, but we need to challenge all the time, because it's not because AI said that we need to trust and without checking. And that's why I bring 2 examples that work and 1 example that the response is not so great. So this is in terms of the prompt for the gap analysis. And let's move for the third one. And potentially this third one, that is the solution design, is something that we do as a functional consultant in combination with the solution architect, the technical persons. But it's something that we need to create a document. And in my experience recently, most of the organizations are calling this document the functional design document, the FDD. And in this case, having a template and to fill this information on the template. I find the experience that a lot of times is difficult to have a good document that the customer can review, the functional team can understand what it says there, the technical team can start the development when it starts the build, and after the testing team can look for the FDD to find what are the test cases important for that. So this FDD, having this wider audience, is a difficult document to create. So in terms of AI, please define your template saying our FDD has these sections and these sections are important, and have a template that is agnostic, is blank. prepare the list of requirements with all the details. So again, it's very important to guarantee that whatever is the gap is well written, is descriptive, and goes directly to the things that are important. And if you are not so sure to have a long text describing all the requirements, just define as bullet points. It works well. In this case, I know that is a lot of information on the screen, and sorry for that. Again, if you look for the left part on the top, we are giving again an introduction saying my role is this one, I am part of this engagement, and as the methodology we need to fill this document, and this is the template. So you can see here from the start of the FDD template, from the beginning until the end of this section, what are the sections that in the organization that we work, we think that is critical to define that. And after, the part that is really the meat of the prompt is the definition of the high-level requirements. And we are describing this is a multi-company, and each retailer needs to be linked with this table and this. So in a way, the functional consultant still needs to describe what is the main idea of the design. And the prompt itself is considering this template and this requirement that it was identified as a gap, please generate the content for each section. And the result, in my view, is pretty good in most of the sections. So on the first one, in terms of abbreviation, AI is very good, a lot better than us, does not miss anything. Description of the scope is also good. The audience, in terms of the components, to be honest, does not have a lot of detail. I think that can be better. And all the boring part that most of the functional consultants don't like is assumptions, dependency, preconditions, risks. All of these can have a good input from AI. And moving to the next slide, to the critical part of the functional design, is pretty good. So it describes table by table, organized with this logic by page, what is the extension, if there is technical considerations, go live. It's really good. So I think that considering that if you have in your methodology of implementing a solution on your customers and you have a template, you can start to embed the use of AI on your experience. You still have a job, you still need to review, but it will help a lot of time in terms of and details, not only time, but a lot of missing details on this document. So this is the prompt 3. Linking this one, solution design and testing. And I know that one of the organizers like Luke is well versed on testing, is on the moment that we have the FDD in good shape with a lot of acceptance, I don't think that is really critical to have fully sign off, but with a high percentage of acceptance from the customer, this simple prompt is, please propose the test cases for the previous FDD. And again, if we define the format that we expect, and let's imagine in this case that we are using Azure DevOps, in this case, it will generate for us. And the test cases are really good. So they describe with a right level of detail something that is the step-by-step in terms of sequence, dependencies, not only looking for the end user perspective, but also with the perspective of some validation. It's really good. And I believe that, or my experience is, if when I ask someone that has the role of functional consultants, if they enjoy to do the test cases creation, until now I didn't find a person that really likes to do this part. Some of them really like to test to guarantee that we don't miss anything, but the creation and this part of documentation most of the colleagues that I work don't like to do. And AI can give a good help on this. So this is the prompt 4. And now an example about data migration. And again, just to explain the background, I have here an example like a business case. So let's imagine that we define and we agree with the customer the scope. And let's imagine that it's critical to have anonymized data. And we have the configuration package already ready to be to be used for a couple of records. This is the part that I believe that should be done before using AI for this case. And the business case is this customer has 200 vendors, and it is already identified what are the columns to be migrated. So considering that we have the configuration package ready, it means that we know which are the columns that are important. And the prompt is very simple. We need to have a test file just to import 200s, and we don't want to ask the customer with this format. And in this case, can you generate a file for me just to test? And you know that on real projects, when we ask the customer a subset of vendors or whatever, a lot of times the information comes with blanks, comes with missing columns, come with the wrong format. In this case, when we want to do a first dry run of the data migration, this is a good test that we can do, even to test the configuration package itself. But in this case, surprise, surprise, the result is, well, you have here few records, but I cannot generate 200 for you, and gives some reasons about it. And even if I test AI saying, but I really need 200 and these type of things, the result was not expected. But for a subset of 10 vendors, the result was pretty good. So a diverse subset of fields, follow the format all the time. And if the goal was to test the configuration package, it was really good. But as I said, I insist with AI, are you able to generate an example with 200? And the answer was no, I insist. And I was surprised that suddenly the result is, I am not able to generate for you, but I can give you a script that you can run that will generate for you. And the real surprise is that this script works. So in this case, instead of having ourselves importing the same data 200 times or transforming data just to do a test of 200 records, in this case, with a simple script, we can generate this for you. So again, the first result of AI was not the expected, but after that, the result is pretty good. So I think that for a functional consultant that somehow is involved in data migration activities, these type of things that a lot of times consume a lot of time and patience, a lot of times, is a real help in everything that we can do related with this topic of data migration. The prompt 6 is a special one, to be honest, and it's a real case that happened with me. So even if in the uni, I some years ago, I have a degree that has some technical classes. In my life, I work all the time on the functional side. So I can read code, I can understand the logic of the ifs, but I cannot create code. So a lot of times I am the person that can challenge the developer about the way that we are doing the things, but I cannot review code itself. And it happened the situation that I will start to describe, that we went live with an organization that it was, as you can see in the screen, a group of companies listed in the stock market, in the London one. They adopt Business Central. They need to export some of the information to the data lake using a tool that BERT is the master, BC to ADLS using the job queue. And at the end of the month, they use Power BI and Excel to use this information into the data lake to prepare the end of the month results. And we implement on that moment in time a low-code solution using a mix of different parts and components of the Microsoft stack, like application insights, telemetry, Power Automate, job queue, Office, that when for some reason this export or this end-to-end process fails, they want to receive an email. Because what they don't want is to try to close the month and they didn't have the latest updated version. And they were pretty happy with the solution. But as always, after the go live, when they were closing the third or fourth month, they start to say that the end users were losing confidence about the solution, because sometimes they receive some emails, and when they check the job queue was still running. So they call it false positives. And suddenly they were closing the quarter. It was a critical moment on the organization to post the results. And they call me saying, we need your help. The team is lacking confidence about the solution and we need to have this sorted. And as you can imagine, using these different components, some of them are technical. And on that week in time, my technical architect was off, the one that creates part of the solution. And I try my best looking for the code, and I was not able to find where was the part of the problem of this solution. After some digging, and this was done without AI, I just identified that it was missing a condition that when the job queue fails, it's not a reason to send the email, but only when the number of failures is greater than the total number of attempts. Because in some cases, the job queue fails the first time because it's a deadlock, and the second time runs well and release the number of that. But in this example that I am giving to you, on the first one, it triggers the email immediately. On the second one, after 1 minute runs, and it was a false positive. So we need to include here a new line saying that the condition is like described on the screen. The language is called KQL. I was not expert on that, but I can read what is on the screen. I was able to add a line, but when I try to compile or to run, I get an error and again an error. I was not able to do. And because of my technical architect was off, I tried to search, I didn't have a solution, and suddenly, well, I need to try AI. And on my third prompt, I just realized that it proposed to include the missing condition, but in this case, by some reasons that even today I don't know, but I don't care, to be honest, that is, in this case, we need to convert the variable to be an integer. And because of that, it was the missing part that I got the error. So it means that myself not being a techie, use AI to solve a problem that I was blocked on that moment in time. It passed 3 years and the solution is still running. And we didn't have any more problems with this solution. It means that I use AI in this case with a technical thing that I was not so familiar and I didn't have the right skills, and it helped me to find with an additional resource something that I was missing, that it was a technical thing. I am sure that if we have some colleagues in or some attendees on this webinar that are more technical, this means a lot to them, but for me it's just a condition that it is sorted now. I don't want to know more details. Solve the problem. So instead of having a prompt number 7 and considering that our time is limited, I am bringing here on this slide few additional ideas that are part of the typical things that a functional consultant does that can be used in my experience using AI. Something that potentially you are doing now, or some of you are doing now, that is to review that important and formal email that we try to reword few times. We want to send is critical and we are not happy with the wording. So AI can do some magic here. All these documents that are more generic, not the FDD that I talk, but sometimes are critical, like defining an integration strategy or a data migration strategy, that a lot of times we have a baseline, we have a template, but we need to tweak for the reality of a customer, is also a good case of using AI to help. Explore the use AI for that boring configuration that no one's like to do in Business Central, for example. I bring this one, the data exchange definitions, that I believe that along the time we use the ones that are working, but if we need to create a new one or we need to change, most of the functional consultants that I know try to avoid it. I believe that there is a lot of space to use these tweaks of a configuration using AI. If somehow you are involved on a product organization, you have an ISV, you have an add-on, I believe that as you address an industry or a subset of requirements, it makes sense to start to create AI, to use AI to create a library of test scripts, because Microsoft does not deliver that part that is part of your organization. And considering the release of new updates all the time, I believe that this generation of test scripts makes sense. So this is not only about requirements, but also extension. And finally, when we are doing something, the customer asks these difficult questions about what are the risks, what are the assumptions, and sometimes it's not immediately in our head. We can use AI to give some ideas about that. And again, coming back to my original slide to say, well, sometimes I don't like when I need to start something and I am not inspired. For example, when we are preparing a workshop and we need some ideas of agenda for a scenario or a workshop, AI can be a good starter. So here I don't bring prompts itself, but I am bringing some ideas. And I believe that if you apply the examples that I give, and it will be part of my key takeaways, using these scenarios and others that can be different that are not listed here, I think that you can have some very good experience using AI. So I think that we are okay in time. So we have some key takeaways. And in the mix of the key takeaways, I will try also to look for the results of the ones that responded to the survey. And it will be a mix of both. So what I didn't mention, or I mentioned in a not direct way, that I believe that is really important, considering that you can start this journey or improve the journey that you are already in, about using AI. So be aware that all the information that you ask, it will be used by AI itself. So please guarantee that you are being compliant with your customers, your organization, because if you upload a template, you are sharing the template with AI. And in the future, AI can be used that template with the others. If you are sharing a graph or a data about a customer, you are sharing this information. So be conscious that this is what is going on the background of your prompt. The second key takeaway is we have this expression or saying that less is more. I believe that using AI, more is more. the more each one of us include on the prompt, the better the result will get. So if you try to use AI, Twitter or now X style, saying, give me the results, give me the requirements, I don't think that the result is so good. If you explain, this is the scenario, I want to achieve this because of this, please give me, you will see that the result is a lot better. And this is why in some of the prompts that I share until now, you see that I include a background about the type of organization, number of countries that is operating, what is my role. And it's important because the AI cannot be with the sixth sense of being in the room if we don't write. So my experience is, please include more on the prompt itself to have a better result. The third one, I touched on that on this example of the feed gap. Don't accept everything. Challenge before you accept. This is a rule that you should, I know that sometimes we are with a lack of time, but it's not because we have a new tool that we should not challenge that. It's like finding a blog that seems to be the right solution for what we see. If it is a blog that is not the Microsoft official one that we can say to the customer, this is the response, we challenge that, we test that. And I think that with AI is the same. The fourth one, in my view, probably is the most critical one, is that the fact that we start to use AI, we should not use AI to blame if the things are not okay or when the things are okay. The owner should continue to be the owner of the process. So the owner of the process of an FDD is still the functional consultant. And it's not because it was 80% generated by AI that we start to say, oh, it was AI that generated that for me. So as a person that I have working with several functional consultants, I won't accept that someone said it's wrong because it's AI. And I believe that we should look for AI as an additional tool that we have now, but we are still the owner. I look personally for AI like watching a video or listening a podcast. We can learn, we can read a book, we can learn from that, but the way that we digest that information and create our version of it is the ownership. And I believe that with AI should be the same. The fifth one is, I know that a lot of functional consultants are very senior, they are very comfortable with the things that they are doing, but there is always new ways of doing it. And I believe that accepting this and giving a try is also a good thing that everyone should onboard. For me personally, it's not so difficult. I am a person that really likes to change and adopt new ways of working. And sometimes the results are not perfect or are not positive, but I think that this acceptance of new ways of working is very important. So now, if you are okay, what I will try to do is to see the results about the form that I submit. So we have a good mix. I am not sharing the screen because it's difficult with the subset that I have at the minute. So we have a good subset, a good mix between developer, functional consultants, and some others in terms of the mix of the audience. We also have a good mix between number of years that works in business applications of Microsoft. And potentially the third question is really the one that I ask you just to be included on this key takeaway. So just to remember and to help the ones that didn't attend since the beginning and they didn't respond to the survey, the third question is, how do you self-assess your level of using Gen AI? The first option is never try, only heard the name. The second one, using as an end user only when it is required. The third option is I use frequently as an end user. And the fourth, I am creating our own solution and models. So I said at the very beginning that I am not at all an expert on AI, but I was inspired with a keynote of a Microsoft person, and this person raised this same question on that keynote, saying, please self-assess where you are at in terms of the generation of AI. And the challenge at the end of that session, and I am stealing the idea and I am repeating all the time, was what level you are. Never try using only when it is needed or using frequently or already create our own solutions. Try to define a plan to be on the next level in 1 year. And on that moment in time, I just did my plan. And on that moment in time, I just respond, I am using as an end user and only when it is needed. And after that, I create a plan that it was to use most of the days. And this is the result, this journey that I am presenting with you. This is my journey about that 1 year that I did. So I start to use on everything that I do. And today I use every day. So the challenge that I want to give to all of you is define your plan. I just explained mine, create your version of yours, and potentially in 1 year, you will be on a better place than you are today, and with all the benefits that you can have from that. So the last statement that I have here is not mine, but you know that there is a lot of conversation about if AI is taking our jobs and things like that. But my personal opinion is really more like I am presenting now. So it's not about AI taking jobs. It will change a lot of jobs. It will take some jobs, but it's more between us. There will be a big difference between the ones that are using AI and the ones that are not using. So I will finish. We still have a couple of minutes for potential questions. I will leave here with my contacts, so you can see my personal email, my LinkedIn, and the blog that I run. So I post a couple of things, not only about Business Central or AI, or generically about business applications of Microsoft. Feel free to get in touch. And potentially, Bert, we will open now and use the last minutes that we have for specific questions.
Yeah, thank you very much, Jose. And I've got one question from Jeffrey about the gap analysis. What if the AI misses a problem because the data is old or incomplete? Can AI help when the client's process is messy or undocumented? How do we know the AI isn't just guessing or making things up?
Okay, good question. So I know that most of the customers likes to say that their specific process are very special. A lot of times I hear this, but in fact, there are leading practice for every process. How to collect money, how to sell an invoice, send an invoice, how to post a journal, how to create a trial balance. There are leading practice about that. And if you are not aware where to start, or on the organization that you work, you don't have this leading practice, I propose that you do a search about a recent release from Microsoft that is called Business Process Catalog. So Microsoft started this originally to release these for Dynamics 365 Finance and Operations. But now I see a lot of Business Central partners also using that. And you will see that there you have a big Excel file, area by area. So record to report, acquired to retired, a lot of process, and you have the leading practice. So I would say that in that case, it's not really AI only, but you can compare the reality of your customer with this leading process. And of course that if it is too much information and you are not sure, you can use AI to have an opinion about the difference of the customer process and this leading practice. What is the biggest challenge about that? Most of the times when a customer has special process, don't have this documented. And this is where we need to step in to help AI. We need to send to AI saying the process is like this one. And to have a good outcome from AI, we need to have this information there. But I think that there is a use case for it. I would propose, as I said, to look for business process catalog from Microsoft and compare with the business process of the customer.
Thanks a lot, Jose. And indeed, that's really a good answer. Indeed, also thanks from Jeffrey. He said, "Well, you nailed it." Thanks for answering it. There are no other questions anymore. I think, Jose, it is really clear, and it's also helping me from understanding new opportunities gonna align. For example, about the testing scenarios and stuff like that. That's really good, and I think also inspires a lot of customers and attendees who joined this webinar. So thanks a lot, Jose, for presenting this to us. Also, thanks for all the attendees for listening to us, and that's on behalf of the Areopia webinar team. And what I said before is this webinar is recorded and it will be shared probably this evening or tomorrow on our YouTube channel. And if you need to contact us, you can do it via email or via LinkedIn. So thanks a lot for attending once again, and have a really good evening or day. Thanks a lot, and see you.